What would you say to all those women that are now thinking that it's moment to shift?
If you're certain of it and you've had that feeling for such a long time, then you should. And some people don't, and that's also completely okay. I know people that are so happy in their 9 to 5 or 9 to 6 or whatever, and that is also completely okay. But if you're not that person and you feel this pull, you will always have it. There is never a perfect time, and I think if you have a good idea, if you don't start to act on it, you will never know. And it can be not as easy. It's not easy, but taking certain steps already will always bring you closer to your goal. And that can also be done maybe next to your job. You don't need to make a super big decision and quit everything to start something new. I think it can start smaller than that and keep you a bit more in a safer space. But, you could. And that's also what I want to do with Bonbeur.
So please, grab a cup of coffee or tea, get comfortable, and enjoy this episode. Welcome to the Brilliantly Branded podcast.
What happens when everything in your life looks like it is in order, but something inside really don't feel aligned anymore? For example, a stable career, you are having it, you are growing, you have this clear path, you have this kind of life that many people will not question if it is going well or not. And still there is a moment where you start to feel that there is probably something not that good. Something inside this little voice and something that is pushing you to do the discomfort zone that is making you questioning and wondering if you are doing okay or not. What are the changes that you should be doing? So in this episode, we are going to have this conversation about what that kind of moments can lead to and how you address it and how you make decisions and how there are triggers and moments in your life that make you really take decisions and do these transformations. So today I'm going to give a big welcome to my guest today, that she is going to share part of her story, how she ended up taking this information and doing something with that, because this is probably sometimes part of a problem that we have the information, we receive the messages, and we are not able to do something with that. So I'm joined by Tine Van Camp, that is the founder of Bonbeur. That is a brand of raincoats for women. I will love to know more details, but basically I will love to show how a story of life is showing us that based on our frustration, we create things that are beneficial for the entire world. So Tine, welcome to the Brilliantly Branded podcast. I will be very delighted, and my audience also, to hear into your story, because if I understood well, you are coming from law. You have been in the corporate world, in the big fours. You have been as well getting into be a mom, and then you decide to become an entrepreneur. Let's hearing from you part of who you are.
Yes, so
please.
I am Tine, indeed founder of Bonbeur, a rainwear brand for women. But before that, indeed, I have a law background. I studied law and then I started as a lawyer. But during my first weeks already, I realized it was not for me. So after 1 year, I shifted to a more corporate world, let's say. I went into the Big Four, where I spent 7 years doing many different things, going from privacy, GDPR, towards, at the end, customer strategy, design, and even communications. And then at the end, I was more in a project management and business development kind of role. But after, so many years, and we'll get into that, that's career also ended for me. At the end of my career at the Big Four, I also had my kids. And then, there was a big shift within me that I wanted to do something different. I wanted to do something on my own. I always had, not always, but for a long time, had this idea in mind that I was missing something, which was really elegant raincoats for women. And this idea was already there. And once I had the time and the mental space, let's say, to actually sit down and think about it and do something about it, I automatically started working on it. And that's how I became the founder of Bonbeur, which still needs to launch, but working on that.
Yeah. Well, I love that this is a very brief story in the sense that we are always saying, this is the short story, this is not the long story.
No,
And I
yeah.
want to dig a little bit more in the long story, because let's start with what happened in that moment, because I wanted the listeners feeling identified. I have been there, because when we are in the corporate world, and I have been there also, then you have like I have everything. I have my payments. I have the stability, and how I'm going to shift and going for another completely different, no?
Yeah.
And then you start to realizing, okay, which moment, and this is my first question, basically, when was this moment that you realized, is moment for me to shift? How did you arrive to that point?
To really change directions, you mean? I don't think it was like one specific moment. I would say, okay, now I'm going to do something different. I think I always sort of knew within me that I wanted to be at a certain point self-employed, wanted to bring something into this world. But at the beginning of my career, it was like, yeah, that's for later. I want to learn things first. I need to, still mature, grow up. But it was a feeling that kept on brewing within me. And then as the years went by, and certain frustrations also started to grow within my job. And also having my kids, your priorities change and the way you look at things change. And I think over time, that feeling of wanting to do something for myself just grew and grew and grew until at the moment my job ended at a Big Four. So I was just in the position like, okay, if it's not now, then when? And so I think that's kind of the moment. It's okay, I'm just going to do it now. If not, I will never do it. And I will probably regret it for the rest of my life.
You mentioned to become a mother, and
Mhm.
that really, really changed priority. And the
Yes.
priority start to be that, but at the same time is your career. So how did you deal with that moment in which you became a mother, and then at the same time your career? How that changed and how that makes you be where you are today?
Yeah. It's really difficult. I think going into motherhood, I would say, before I had my daughter, my first baby, I really had the opinion like, okay, but I was always very career driven and ambitious. And I didn't think that I would, that would change when having children. And also it was the case when I had her. I worked really hard until I went into pregnancy leave of Ellie, my daughter. And then upon coming back as well, I just kept on working and I was still like very motivated. But of course, things changed. You had to be a bit more flexible, let's say, having to pick her up at the daycare and so on. But it was still okay in the sense that I knew it already started growing. Like, okay, at some point I wanted to do something different, but I was still going on autopilot at that moment, I think. And then it was more going into my second pregnancy leave that things started to change a bit more, because at that time, also within my job, things started to change. I had more and more frustrations coming. I felt that misalignment growing more. And then when I went into pregnancy leave, I also took a longer leave the second time around. So the first time it was like the minimum that you can do, 3.5 months or something. The second time I did 5 months. So it was a bit more time to think maybe, but also the birth was a bit more rough. It was quite traumatic. So it was really, sort of a scary moment. Long story short, it was an emergency C-section and he didn't breathe when he was born. So I was pretty scared for, I would say it was like 5-10 minutes. Maybe it's not that long, but at that moment, it's really long that he wouldn't breathe or he wouldn't make a sound. And I thought, he's not there anymore. That moment really scared me. And at the end, everything is okay. He's a perfectly fine, happy toddler at the moment. But it was a scary moment. And I think it changed perspective on things for me as well. That, life is so fragile. And I had worked so hard up until that moment. I had a 1-year-old at home and I was pregnant of my second baby. And like they're 20 months apart. So that's quite close. And so
Close,
it was
yeah.
really tough physically, but still I gave 110% at my work. And when I was in my pregnancy leave, I was just wondering like, why did I do all that? Because it's not for me, it's for someone else's wallet, and I'm not getting any reward out of it. I'm not getting any promotion anytime soon. So I'm just an idiot that I put all this time and effort with a small kid at home, with another on the way, and things can be gone in one
Yeah.
second. So
Yeah.
I think that was really a moment that changed perspective for me. And then, I was at home for a longer time to really think about what I wanted to do next. And as mentioned before going into my second pregnancy leave, I felt more misalignment at my job in general. And that's when I felt like, okay, if I come back, I don't think I can still be there for a long time, because I know deep within me that I actually want to do something for myself and be my own boss, basically. So that really changed. And so I did come back to my job, of course. But my perspective on things was completely different at that time around. And also things at work changed a lot. People shifted. In consulting in general, it still is a difficult time. And I felt really not in my place. I had a really difficult position with someone on top above me, a new position that I had to answer to, which was very strange. My team was also placed on different projects. So I felt a bit, out of place and put in a
Yeah.
corner. And it was a really difficult position. That combined with everything sort of,
Yeah.
me this feeling like,
Yeah, all the things that are happening to us in the different situation, and all the thoughts that are coming, and all the feelings. And what I am more curious to know is actually all those feelings, what was the things that helping you to make the decision to change that? Because is I have been there many times in just ruminating in, this is not good for me, this environment is not good, or this is not affecting, this is affecting me a lot. So how can I deal with that? But what are the things that you use to really make the decision, for example, to leave your job?
it's Ali, to be very honest, it's very difficult, that situation. And I think
Mm.
many people have those feelings and are in those situations. And especially if you're a parent, you can simply say, oh, I'm gonna quit. I don't have anything else lined up. You have daycare or school to pay. You need to have a
Yeah,
house for your kids.
everything.
You need to have some sort of stability. I will never disrespect anyone saying like, okay, this is really not the time for me to make big changes or big decisions. And for me, that was difficult as well, because I knew like I'm not happy here. But I have bills to pay as well. And I don't know at that time. It took a year basically from once I came back from my pregnancy leave of my son, my second kid, until leaving. So it took a while. And I knew I wasn't really happy. And I was looking around to do other positions. But I knew like, okay, I can apply there and it will be the same thing at another employer. I will still at a certain point will be frustrated and I will still have the same feeling that I want to do something for myself. But that is such a big step. So it took a really long time. And at the same time, I started to notice as well, okay, I'm really not in a good position here with my employer. And, if you're there for 7 years, you sort of can tell when someone's position will be terminated at some point. And at a certain point, I also felt that with me, like, okay, I'm not chargeable at this moment. There is nothing in the pipeline. I'm working on a service line which is not doing well. So if you just do the math, it doesn't look that good. And I knew if I really wanted to grow within the firm, I sort of knew what I had to do. Okay, then I would have to re-identify, reinvent myself again, change directions, go to a new service line, build up a new team. I wasn't motivated to do that anymore. So as difficult as it is to admit it, but I sort of let it die, if that makes sense. Time went over it and it was very hurtful for my ego because, at first I had a really good reputation within the firm. I was a really good, really good profile, let's say. I had a good
Performance,
network within the firm. It was great, but then it sort of started to decline really rapidly. And that people were talking like, oh, she's not chargeable for so long. And so that was really painful. But
yeah.
okay. I just let it be the case and knew like, okay, I'm not going to be the one to just quit because I'm put in a difficult position. That is not my role. And I had a fairly good indication of the timeline of when they would take a decision to basically fire me, which is eventually what happened. So that decision came, I think it was end of November 2024, which was, as I had imagined it. And that was okay. It was painful, but it was a big relief because at least I had still a termination time. How do you say it? So of 6 months. So it was basically me being able to be home while still being paid for 6 months. I mean, that's a big luxury. And that was exactly what I needed to just, land on my feet. Still the 2 little kids at home to just sort of take my time. Okay, what do I want now?
Okay.
and not jump into something new. And
Yeah.
so
So
that's
that was the moment of creation of your brand, actually?
so basically, yes. First, I took some time to put my life back in order, because if you work for an employer for
Can
such a
you?
long time,
Yeah.
they manage everything for you, your phone bills, your car, everything. But once that was done, and then it was January 2025, I was like, okay, I need to get back to work. But I don't want to do a job. So I had this idea already in my mind for a long time, idea for Bonbeur, which is elegant raincoats for women. And it was still there. And I knew in general I want to do something for myself, but what is a good idea? And I was brainstorming on lots of things, because I always thought like, okay, the raincoat, it's really cool, but it's really difficult. So it wasn't my first choice, let's say. I wanted to look for something easier, but I just couldn't find it, or I couldn't find something that I was as certain of that it was necessary. So after a while, I just automatically started working on the idea for Bonbeur. And it wasn't like one moment, okay, I'm just going to start working it. It was, okay, I'm going to do some research here and there. And then it started to grow. You have more contacts, you go to a fair, some certain communication starts flowing. And then when it was more like official, let's say, that I was working on that, it was because of I applied for an accelerator program here, which is started KBC. It's fairly known in Belgium. I think it's even the big startup accelerator in Europe, if I'm not mistaken. But they also have a dedicated fashion program now for a couple of years, and it opened up in February. So the timeline was perfect in that sense. So I
Okay.
had my market research, my basic business plan. I was like, okay, you know what? It's a good exercise to just fill in the application. At least it will give me feedback. Even if they don't accept me, or I can't even go to a pitch, then at least I know that it's maybe
Yeah.
not such a good idea. So I
Yeah.
filled everything in, and then I was invited to pitch. It's like, okay, that's already nice. And then
Something new, something challenge,
voila,
and something.
indeed.
And this is, I don't want to interrupt your story, but what I
No
wanted to
worries.
bring here is the way in which you establish your own environment in order to work in something that you wanted to create. Because I think that generating that discipline, let's say, and this willpower that will allow in you every day, with your kids at home, just being out of a company and
Mhm.
establish again that cadence
Yeah,
is something very difficult.
it
and
is.
and actually I would like to dig it a little bit on that for all those women or even people that wanted to start creating something from scratch, because this is what you have been doing with your brand. No, after all these things in the same play, because it's being a mom, is having deciding to quit your job, so it's many things in the arena to
Yeah,
analyze, okay, what was the tools that you use. You have this application, and I guess you have to, okay, let's practice and let's
yeah,
learn how to pitch. But what was the tools probably that you have used that help you the most? Because with the kids around, I can
yeah.
imagine doing that is quite a bit challenging.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, it's a very good question indeed. And I think that's honestly still a challenge for me, if you don't have to be in an office from 9 to 5, to
Mhm.
bring structure into your life and to really have that discipline indeed to sit at your desk and do the work. Because especially if you're at home, even if the kids are at school or in daycare, there is so much to do. There is always work. So that was, I'm getting better at it, but still it's a challenge. Because in the beginning I was like, okay, no, I need to do the laundry, I need to go do this, and I need to run this errand
Exactly.
because it needs to get done. And then suddenly, like, okay, school is done, I haven't done anything. So yes, that was really difficult. And I think that's indeed a good thing about applying and joining that accelerator program, because it gave me accountability. So yeah, indeed, eventually I did the pitch and I was accepted, so that's great. And at that moment, once you're accepted, you're in the group for a year. It's now ending, so I did the full year. But you you have a session with your coach every 2 weeks to say, okay, this is what I have done the last 2 weeks. This is what is on the schedule. These are the things that are blocking me. You have sessions also with your entire group to sort of discuss each other's challenges, and you have certain workshops, or there are things on the agenda that you have to physically be present for. So that's good to get out of the house, get Meet other people, give you the feeling that you're actually doing something and not just being stuck at home, but also to create that accountability. Like, okay, I need to show some progress. So that is, I think, a very good way, or for me, that was at least a very good way to say, okay, I need to show some progress. Otherwise, I'm wasting someone else's spot in this program. So that was really good. And then trying to, get as much structure as you can. Of course, my kids, they both go to school. Last year, the youngest still went to daycare, but they went full time. So it's not like they were at home during the day, except for Wednesday afternoons, which is still, Wednesdays are still difficult for me to get things done. But apart from that, they're not home. So that's good. So I'm trying to really take my time then. Okay, they're at school, so I'm going to do my work and not rearrange the entire house. Of course, I do some laundry in between the things, but still I try to be
Yeah,
at least
this is
structured in that sense.
this
But
is the
it is a
topic.
challenge. And I think for everyone, even if you are in a 9 to 5 in a job working from home, I think everyone has that, like, okay, I will quickly finish the dishwasher or something. It's for everyone a challenge, I guess.
Yeah, it is, it is. But the other very important things also is how you came from different industries, let's say, because you have been touching the law, you have been touching
Yeah.
all the GDPRs, all the data, all this information that is adding value to the entrepreneur that you become today.
Yeah.
So this
Totally.
process of transition is not just about what you do, but who you become, right?
Yeah.
So for that, what you have been explaining how to become a mother and to be a mother and being with all those things at the same time, an entrepreneur. But for you, what have been the most challenging thing during this process to deal with?
I think for me, I underestimated a lot how much becoming an entrepreneur, let's call it like that, would challenge my confidence. I really underestimated it because I thought like, okay, this is what I wanted to do for such a long time and I'm doing it now and that's great. But starting a business really forces you to meet yourself and your, I don't know, trauma is a big word, but your insecurities and everything just like pops up so much and you really have to confront it in order to be able to proceed. So, and it also shows you very much what your weaknesses are. For me, it's, confidence was a big thing. Now it's really getting better, but I felt quite inconfident, of course, because I was fired. I was let go of my job. So that did impact my confidence. And I needed time to get over that and to see the big picture and to not take it personal. But it took some time. And then growing into entrepreneurship, but also in the fashion sector, for me, that was also fairly new. I come from consulting, which is very gray, very corporate. And in my started group, in the fashion group, these were all like very creative people. And I felt like the odd duck in the pond, like, oh, I'm good at Excel, but that's it. So it's
Yeah.
convenient, but I was like, so that was, it just really took some time to grow into that and to see that also like everyone in whatever business has that. And it's just difficult starting a business. So that, it just takes some time and learning as you go and talking to other people and knowing that everyone faces those challenges. And at least I think it's a very positive thing that if you start a business, you are forced to work on certain things and to get to know yourself a lot better. And I think that's also a beautiful thing. So in that perspective, I'm very appreciative of it as well.
Yeah, well, I am very appreciative about a woman that decide to get it into the entrepreneurial world with all the things and all the challenges and deciding to build something actually for other women because
Yes.
Bonbeur is the raincoats for women, and I
Yes.
will give you space to talk a little bit about that because in our conversation you share with me, well, I designed this actually for women because my
Yes.
frustrations. So this is a little bit to tell the story how your frustration became something that you give to the world. So can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah. For sure. It's a personal frustration that I had for such a long time. I think that the scenario that I give the most times is like, okay, I had to go to the office or go to a client. And it was, in Belgium, it rains so much. The weather is so unpredictable. And
In
you park your
Luxembourg also.
Exactly. Like it can be sunshine when you step into your car and then you arrive and it's pouring rain. And then you have to sort of arrive at the office or at a client or, at an event in a sort of presentable way. And then, or you can have an umbrella. But in my case, I forget it all the time. It's also inconvenient to take it in your bag and so on. And then if you have a raincoat, for me, it was like a very unisex plasticky raincoat. It didn't look good. So you put time and effort into putting on a nice outfit that makes you feel good and confident, and then you cover it up with the ugliest thing that you have ever seen. And so I arrived at the office or wherever I had to be very oof, sweaty and not feeling my best. And then I would dump the coat in the first corner that I saw. And it was such a frustration that kept on coming back. Like, how difficult can it be to have a nice raincoat? And it was also a purchase I would delay because I just couldn't find it. And I didn't want to spend my money on something that I didn't like. So I'd just cover myself up with my bag. And I thought this is so stupid. And if I talk to other women, a lot of them had the same frustration. So that's really where the idea came from. And now a lot of people ask me why not men? Well, I just think the problem isn't that big for them. First of all, they don't care as much, or most of them at least don't. And they have more options because a lot of rainwear brands are already quite, as I mentioned, unisex or more gray and so on. They're quite okay for men. And the problem is bigger for women. And I think it is good to not only also from a financial perspective, of course, it's an investment. So starting with a focus is good, but also from just the brand narrative, let's say, it is good to start with a focus. Then it's very clear what the problem is. That is where my frustration came from, and that is the problem that I want to fix. So starting with a brand for everyone would just not be true. So that's why it's for women. And I hope if once Bonbeur is launched into the world, that a lot of women will be helped and will feel confident and good, even when it rains. That's the goal.
Yeah, well, the most important part also is to show to the world the work that you have been done until now. That basically you have been receiving the approval in this accelerator that you went,
Yeah.
and that is very important because as well that is demonstrating the market availability and how the market is really needing that product. So it's part of what you have been done, right?
So yeah, indeed. So the program, the accelerator program, is really to guide me and support me from, you can apply basically in any stage of your company. Many of my group were in a further stage than me. It was really a rough idea and some sketches. And they really supported me from bringing this rough idea. At the time, it didn't have a name. It was just called Project Rainbow. And it's everything needed to be done. I had to find a name. I had to create the first samples, do the entire branding, everything. So really to lay those foundations, all of that has been done over the last year. So eventually finding a name, which was really challenging for me because I wanted to have...
naming
This is
processes
so
are super
difficult.
challenging.
In this day and age, everything is taken. If you want to have a name that you can register as a trademark, that has a good domain name available, and that still has some sort of meaning, it's really difficult. And so that took a while, but it's done. I'm really happy also with the name now. So that is something I'm really happy with. And also
Can you share with us a little bit about how did you build that and how did you arrive to Bonbeur?
Of course, because it's a strange name, I would say, for a rainwear brand, which was the idea. I didn't want something that was too descriptive, like a rains, or something that would scream, this is a raincoat, because my ambition is to create coats that you can wear for any type of weather. So if it's sunny outside and you can put on a Bonbeur coat, and if it starts to rain, it's not a big problem. You're protected. But the coat is nice and it looks like a nice coat without looking too much as a raincoat. And what also was important for me was a general playfulness and positive feeling, because I think we're making life so difficult already. Why make things hard if it doesn't need to be the case? And we need to find joy and happiness in little things, even if it rains or the weather is not that good. So that is also an important factor for me. And then Bonbeur, It's a combination of two words. So first of all, beurre from butter. Why? Butter is it's naturally water resistant, water repellent, let's say. So that is one thing. It sounds, at least in French, beurre sounds a bit playful and feminine, which was nice. But beurre as such is you're not able to register it. So that was not an option. So I had to find a combination with another word. So then I started brainstorming, okay, how can I combine this with another word? And then bon space beurre came up. But that sounded a bit too much like a bakery still. It wasn't strong enough. And then, I don't know, it sort of came into my head. I will just skip the RE at the end and put it next to each other. And then it also sounds a bit like bonheur. And that is exactly the second factor that I wanted to bring into that, like that playfulness. And then it's a completely invented word, which is easier to register and so on.
Yeah.
So voilà. So that is Bonbeur, a
Exactly.
mix of bonheur and beurre. And I'm very happy with the name. It's playful, it's feminine, and it's fun. And that's all I needed. So.
It's beautiful story behind, because this is, a brand is exactly the same like a naming a baby. I mean, naming a
Yes,
brand
it's
is
more
exactly
difficult.
the same. It's even more difficult. You're right. But
You
I'm
don't need to
happy that
register your kid.
exactly in
My
certain way
son is called Jack, so that would be like a big issue.
Well, Tine, that have been fantastic to know all those details. And just to start to wrap up, there is a couple of questions. And one of those is, what you will say to all those women that are now probably thinking that it's moment for them to achieve, that they need probably this push, this little push that maybe across your voice you can give to them, because as we were saying at the beginning, feelings, we all have feelings, we tell to us our own story, but taking action and really do things to really change and to really achieve is probably the most difficult part. So what
Yeah.
would you say to that woman that are now listening to us and saying, should I be shifting or not?
I think if you're certain of it and you've had that feeling for such a long time, then you should. And some people don't. And that's also completely okay, which is also important to mention. I know people that are so happy in their 9 to 5 or 9 to 6 or whatever. And that is also completely okay. But if you're not that person and you feel this pull, you will always have it. And there will never be a perfect time. I mean, I started doing this when I was fired and I had 2 kids of 3 and 1.5 at that time. So, I mean, that's not great. But so there is never a perfect time. And I think if you have a good idea, if you don't start to act on it, you will never know. And it can be not as easy. It's not easy. I will never say that. But taking certain steps already will always bring you closer to your goal. And that can also be done maybe next to your job. You don't need to make a super big decision and quit everything to start something new. I think it can start smaller than that and keep you a bit more in a safer space. I didn't do that, but you could. And most of all, I think, and that's also what I want to do with Bonbeur, it's believe in yourself. And I want to empower women, and not only by making them feel good and making them feel like they look good even when it rains, but also from within, like, okay, even if it's a bad day, even if I'm not feeling my best, I need to show up and I need to believe in myself, and I need to believe that I can do the thing. And I think there are so many women with so many talents and capabilities that just don't see enough of the light of day, let's say. So, and that's just such a pity. So I think we just need to be a bit more, believe in ourselves a bit more.
Yeah. And thank you, because this is actually, it's not just saying and empowering others. It's as well giving the tools, and giving the
Yeah.
tools is across the knowledge and across many different things, across your attitude also. Because having a situation in which you are going to lose everything, that you are going to need to start a new life, that
Yeah.
could be challenging, and you can just say, I'm not going to wake up and I'm not going to do anything, and get stuck there and really get it into depression. It's so many things that are coming around, but as well having this willpower that I always call as willpower, because it's the only one thing that is pushing you, even not
Yeah.
discipline. Sometimes it's like it's not just discipline, it's really willpower. And
Yeah.
that is actually connecting with my last question, because this is actually how we are building the good things that are coming around, and how we are building this better world. So if you could define in one word what could be the seed for a better world, what that word would be?
I think I thought about this and I sort of briefly mentioned it already in my last question, but for me, it would be really show up. And I think that's something that comes from within you, but show up, whether it's for your dreams, for your kids or whatever. But if everyone would do that, it's difficult to explain. But bring their best self forward, and I think that the world as a whole would be in a better place, if that makes sense. It's difficult
That
to
makes
explain.
sense. No,
Okay.
no, I get it. I get it because for me, it's important to show up and basically show up first for yourself.
Yeah.
Because as
Yeah.
we were commenting, you are in all the situation and then you decide, I'm not going to show up. I'm not going to do absolutely anything. So then the accountability is going
Exactly.
down. And
Yeah.
the consistency is, you lose the consistencies. I have been doing the podcast for the last 3 years,
Yeah.
consistently showing up every week. And I
Yeah.
think that is making a difference already. And I am so happy about that. Yeah. So thank you. Thank you, Tine, for sharing your story, for sharing your experience and all this path that you are getting into to continue growing your brand and launching and making that something real for the women in the world. I'm so happy about that and have to say I will keep an eye on you and in
For
the
sure.
product and in the brand, and wishing you all the best in this process.
Thank you so much, and also for the conversation. It was really nice.
Thank you, Tine. Your story is your brand, and your brand is a seed for a better world. Every conversation you heard today came from someone who showed up to share honestly and trusted that their experience could help someone else. That someone is probably you. Now it is your turn to pass it on. Please share this episode with one woman who needs it. Explore the playlist and find the conversation that is picked for her moment. Because the right story, shared at the right time, change everything. And every time this community grows, it reaches farther than you can imagine. The proceeds from our brilliantly branded live events go directly to children's education through Seeds for a Better World, the association we founded so that impact never stops. So please explore the playlist, and if you know a voice that deserves to be heard here, please send them my way. Until the next episode, ciao ciao!